They say love is blind. But I never thought I'd have to prove that literally. I've been blind for most of my life, since I was 12, in fact. One minute I was riding my bike home from school, the next, darkness. A freak accident, a blur of lights, sirens, and voices that faded into the unfamiliar world of shadows. At first I thought it was the end, but somehow, life kept going. I learned to adapt, to listen more, to feel more. But no matter how many years passed, there was always something missing, something I never stopped aching for. Then came her, Emily. I met her at a support group I'd been reluctantly dragged to by a friend. She wasn't like the others. She wasn't there because she had to be, she volunteered. She read to us, helped organize events, and somehow managed to brighten up the darkest room with just her voice. That voice, it, was warm, steady, and kind. The kind of voice that made you forget the things you couldn't see. Slowly, over months of shared conversations, coffee dates, and long walks filled with laughter and silence, she became my eyes, my connection to the world I could no longer reach. And I fell in love. Not with her looks, I'd never seen her face, but with her soul, the way she described a sunset like it was poetry. The way she squeezed my hand during thunderstorms, the way she never made me feel broken. She became my light in the darkness. Today, I'm marrying her, but today is also something else. You see, a few months ago, I underwent an experimental surgery, a risky last hope procedure. The doctors told me there was a slim chance my vision might return, and against all odds, it did. Well, partially. Colors, shapes, light, blurred, outlines, slowly returning. But Emily doesn't know yet. We agreed I'd keep the bandages on until our wedding day, until after the vows, until the moment I could look into the eyes of the woman I've loved without ever seeing, and see her for the very first time. It was supposed to be the most beautiful moment of my life, but nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when the bandages came off. I don't remember exactly when I first noticed her. It wasn't a moment of sudden realization, no dramatic pause in time where everything became clear. It was gradual, like sunlight creeping through a closed window. I had no intention of going to that support group. I was angry. I was tired of people trying to fix me. I hated the pity in their eyes, the way they whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. So, when my friend insisted, I reluctantly agreed, mostly to get him off my back. That's when I met Emily. She wasn't like the others in the group. Most people were there to vent their frustrations, talk about their struggles. But Emily? She was different. There was something in the way she carried herself, so warm, so effortlessly kind. She wasn't there for herself. She was there for us, for people like me. I remember the first time she read to me. I couldn't see the words, but the way she said them. She made them come alive. Her voice danced, every syllable full of life, full of color. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. It wasn't just the words that filled the room, it was her presence, the gentleness with which she spoke, the humor that seeped into her voice when she read a funny part, and the comfort that came from her calm, steady tone. Didn't realize then that it would be her voice I'd come to love most. At first, I told myself it was just a connection, a friendship built on shared experiences, shared loneliness. But as weeks turned into months, something changed. I started looking forward to the group meetings, not for the support, but for the moments when she would speak to me, when she'd bring me coffee or give me a hand on the way out. I didn't know what it was, but there was something about her kindness that made me feel like I could breathe again. And soon, I realized, I wanted more. It started with small gestures, the way her hand would brush mine when we passed something. Then, the first time she held my hand, it wasn't forced. It wasn't out of pity. It was just natural. She didn't make a big deal out of it. She just held my hand like it was the most normal thing in the world. But for me, it was the first time in years that I didn't feel like I was invisible. "Are you okay?" she'd ask when I'd flinch or tense up. "You don't have to talk if you don't want to." But I wanted to. And little by little, I let her in. We spent hours talking about our pasts, our dreams, the things that scared us. She had this quiet way of making me feel like I could say anything, and over time I started to trust her with parts of me I'd buried long ago. She told me about her life, too. How she grew up in a small town. How she hated taking pictures because she never felt comfortable in front of the camera. She described herself as average-looking, modest, nothing special. She never liked attention. She said she preferred the quiet moments, long walks in nature, reading a book in silence, or just being with someone she cared about. I remember the first time I laughed at one of her jokes. It was a silly joke about a cat who couldn't stop sneezing, but it was the sound of her laugh, the way her whole face lit up. Even if I couldn't see it, that made me feel like I'd found something real, average-looking. She'd call herself, but I never believed it. To me, she was everything. And in her eyes, I wasn't just the guy who couldn't see. I was the guy she cared about, the guy she wanted to be with. And I couldn't help but feel the same way. But not everyone shared my certainty. My best friend Jake was always skeptical of Emily. "And you know she's nice, man," Jake would say. But I just don't trust it. I mean, who volunteers at a disability group unless they're trying to save you or something? People like that, they have ulterior motives." I hated hearing it, but a small part of me understood where he was coming from. Jake had always been protective of me, always trying to look out for me. But there was something about Emily that I couldn't explain. Something pure, something real. Then there was my mom. She never said much about Emily, but I could tell she didn't like her. My mom was always hovering around, checking in on me, asking if I needed anything. She'd never fully let me go. I could see the way her eyes would narrow when Emily was around, like she didn't fully trust her intentions. "She's nice enough," Mom would say, "but just be careful. Not everyone who comes into your life is looking out for your best interest, you know?" I brushed it off. I was in love, and for once, someone loved me back. But there were little things. Emily always avoided having her picture taken with me. I thought it was odd, but I didn't press her on it. She'd always find an excuse. "I don't like how I look in pictures," or "let's just focus on the moment, not the camera." There was also that night. We were out walking, and I overheard her whispering on the phone. I couldn't hear much, just a few words here and there. Something about a no one knowing, and "I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen." When I asked her about it later, she laughed it off, said it was just a work thing, nothing to worry about. But why did my gut twist every time she said nothing to worry about? Why did that feeling not go away? Pushed it aside. I didn't want to believe what I was starting to feel. I wanted to believe in her, in us, because, despite all the little red flags, despite the small doubts that crept into my mind, I told myself that I had to trust her. She loved me when I had nothing to offer but words. That had to be real, right? The morning of the wedding was a blur. I couldn't stop shaking. I'd been calm before, but now, with the ceremony only hours away, the weight of it all was suffocating. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, the culmination of everything I'd dreamed of, my wedding day. And yet, I couldn't stop thinking about the surgery that might give me back my sight. The doctors had warned me that it wasn't a guarantee, but I couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. I had been blind since I was 12. Over the years I had learned to live with the darkness, but now I was about to have the chance to see, to truly see, my wife. I kept telling myself it didn't matter. I loved her no matter what. But deep down, I wanted to know. I wanted to see her face, the face I had only imagined in my dreams. I tried to calm my nerves as I put on the tux, adjusted my tie. But it wasn't working. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured her. I felt her hand in mine, her voice steady and sure. I could hear her soft laughter, but I couldn't see the smile that went with it. The rest of the morning passed in a haze of chatter, nervous energy, and laughter that felt too far away. And then, before I knew it, we were at the church. The moment was here, the doors were open, and I could hear her. The music began to play, and every step she took down the aisle sent waves of emotion through me. I could hear the soft shuffle of her shoes on the floor, the slight rustle of her dress as she moved closer. The crowd went silent, and it felt as if the entire world stopped for a moment. I could hear her breathing, steady and calm. She was nervous too, I could tell. My heart raced as I waited, knowing that this was the moment. She would reach me soon, and when she did, I would say my vows to her, not with my eyes, but with everything I had learned to feel and understand. The ceremony passed in a blur of emotions. There was no grand spectacle. It wasn't needed. All I could hear were the words of our vows, the promises we made to each other. My hands trembled as I spoke, but I felt her squeeze my fingers, steadying me. Her voice was soft yet unwavering, and I knew she meant every word. And then, it was time. The moment we'd both been waiting for, the bandages. The doctor had been waiting in the corner, and as soon as the ceremony ended, I felt the familiar cool touch of his gloves against my skin. "Are you ready?" he asked gently. I nodded. Everyone had gathered around, family, friends, the people who had witnessed our journey. There was an electric hum in the air, an anticipation that felt too big to contain. The moment had arrived, and the entire room seemed to hold its breath. I could feel her hand in mine, still trembling. She was nervous too, and it was as if her nerves had passed through me, intensifying mine. I wanted so badly to turn to her, to feel her eyes on me, but I couldn't. Not yet. The doctor carefully began to unwrap the bandages, and for the first time, I could feel light, the kind of light I hadn't experienced in over 2 decades. A warmth, a faint glow that seemed to flood my vision. First, there was just light, shapes, blurry outlines. It felt like waking up from a long sleep. I blinked, adjusting to the world that had been hidden from me for so long. And then, slowly, the shapes began to form into faces. I saw my mother first. Her face was full of tears, her mouth quivering as she held my hand. Her eyes were wide with emotion, the years of worry and love etched deep into her features. But I saw her. I saw her for the first time in my life, and it was overwhelming. The tears in my eyes blurred everything again, but I knew I was seeing her. Next, I saw Jake. His face was full of excitement, a broad grin that stretched across his face. I could hear the crack in his voice as he tried to say something, but no words came. His presence was warm, and he gave me a thumbs up, his eyes filled with pride and happiness. Then I turned to her, Emily, my bride, my wife. And in that instant, time seemed to freeze. I had prepared myself for this moment. I had imagined what she would look like for years. I had pictured her face 1,000 times, drawing it in my mind with the strokes of her voice, the softness of her touch. But what I saw was not what I expected. Her face was not the face I had imagined. There was a subtle difference, an unsettling one. It wasn't just her features, it was her. Something about her was off, something I couldn't put my finger on. Her eyes were what froze me. I couldn't look away. They were not the eyes I had come to love in my dreams. I had seen those eyes before, but not in my dreams, in my nightmares. A sick feeling crawled up my throat, and I felt the world tilt beneath me. My hands began to shake, my pulse pounding in my ears. I tried to breathe, to steady myself, but it was impossible. The room, the faces, the voices, everything was fading. My vision was swimming, and all I could focus on were her eyes. I had to look away, but I couldn't. The recognition, the dread, it was too much. I felt her hands on mine, squeezing, but it only made it worse. I had to blink. I had to clear my head, but the feeling wouldn't leave. And the question screamed in my mind, "Who are you really, Emily?" The rest of the reception passed in a blur. People congratulated us, smiled, and cheered, but I couldn't hear them. I couldn't focus on anything except the terrifying truth that had taken root in my mind. I couldn't look at her. Emily, my bride, my wife, the woman I had given my heart to, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. But now Now, all I could see were her eyes. And the more I stared at her, the more that feeling of dread twisted in my chest. Something was horribly wrong. The world around me had shifted and I couldn't catch my breath. People were dancing, laughter filled the air. But I was in a haze, a fog that I couldn't escape. "Hey man, you okay?" Jake's voice broke through the fog. I turned to him, and for the first time, I realized that he was staring at me, concerned. The look in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. Something was off. Something about me was different. I tried to force a smile, tried to act normal, but the world was spinning. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little overwhelmed," I said, my voice shaking. I could barely even hear myself. "Something's not right," Jake said, his eyes narrowing. "You look like you're about to lose it." I couldn't stand it anymore. I pulled him aside, away from the crowd, into a quieter corner of the room. "Jake, I need you to do something for me. Something. I don't even want to believe, but I can't ignore it anymore." He raised an eyebrow but nodded, sensing the gravity in my tone. "I need to know who she really is. I've seen her before. I'm sure of it," I whispered, barely believing the words myself. "Her eyes. I've seen them before, and it's not in my dreams. It's not in the way I imagined her." Jake's face darkened, and for a moment I saw hesitation in his eyes. He opened his mouth to say something, but he stopped himself. "You're not making sense, man. I know. But please, just trust me on this." After a long pause, Jake reluctantly nodded. "All right, I'll dig. I'll see what I can find. But you've got to promise me you'll stop freaking out, okay? This could just be a coincidence, a mix-up." I didn't know if it was a coincidence. It couldn't be. Jake spent the next few hours doing exactly what he said he would. He talked to people, pulled up old photos from the past, his mind clearly running through his own doubts. When he finally returned, he looked grim, and the moment he handed me the old photos, I knew the truth was about to crash into me like a wave. The first photo was from high school, Jake, a group of friends, and Emily, or whoever she was then. She didn't look the same. Her hair was longer, and she wore a different smile. But her eyes, those eyes, there was no mistaking it, and I don't get it. "She wasn't in our group," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Jake frowned. "You're telling me you don't remember this? That's her, dude. She was in our class back when you were still in high school. But there's something weird. Her name's not Emily." It was Rachel back then, Rachel Hayes. My chest tightened, and I took in a shaky breath. Rachel Hayes? That name. I know that name. That's the name I heard right before the accident. Jake's eyes widened, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. What accident? I closed my eyes, trying to steady myself, but the memories came flooding back, sharp, raw, and painful. I was a teenager, in the middle of a summer night, taking a walk home from a friend's house. The streets were quiet, peaceful. Until they weren't. I remembered a car speeding down the road. I remember hearing the screeching tires and the sound of the crash. But, more than anything, I remembered the eyes, the girl's eyes. They were staring at me through the windshield, wide with fear, and then the world went black. I had never remembered her face fully, not until now. But those eyes, the way they haunted me every time I thought about the accident. Now, I understood why. I felt sick. She was the one who hit me, wasn't she? I whispered, the words like poison in my mouth. Jake didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I stood there, frozen in that moment, as everything I thought I knew shattered. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered later that evening, my voice breaking. I confronted her in the quiet, empty corner of the reception hall. Everyone was gone. The last of the guests had trickled out, and all I could feel was the suffocating weight of the truth. Rachel stood before me, her face pale, her eyes full of regret. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. "I didn't know." "How?" she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Oh, I never knew how to tell you. And then, I fell in love with you." I couldn't lose you. The words stung, but it wasn't the betrayal that hurt the most, it was the knowledge that she had been living a lie. You changed your name. You changed everything. You thought I wouldn't find out? I didn't think you'd ever remember me. You were just a kid. I was just a kid, and I never thought it would come to this. But I couldn't stop myself. She took a step toward me, but I backed away. I loved you, and I was afraid that if you knew, if you found out the truth, you wouldn't want me anymore. I stared at her, the world spinning, my mind a whirlwind of pain and confusion. So what was all of this then? Was it just about guilt? About trying to make up for what you did to me? Her eyes welled up with tears. No, I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to love you. But I couldn't keep lying to you, not anymore. I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know what to say. The woman I had married wasn't the woman I thought she was. And the love I had believed was real? It felt like a lie, a betrayal I couldn't undo. I don't remember how I ended up outside. The cold air hit me like a slap, a shock to my system. My body felt like it was being pulled in every direction. My mind? My mind was spinning, trapped between disbelief and rage. I had just learned that the woman I had married, the woman I had trusted with my heart, my soul, was not who she claimed to be. And now all I could feel was betrayal. You lied to me, I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of everything that had happened. You lied to me for years. Emily Rachel stood in front of me, her eyes red from crying, her hands trembling. The tears that had once seemed so beautiful, so comforting, now only felt like a reminder of how deeply I had been deceived. She stepped forward, her voice pleading, but it only made me pull back, the distance between us growing with every word she spoke. I'm sorry. I am so sorry, she said. I never meant for this to happen. I laughed, bitter, hollow. You never meant for this? But this is everything. This was my life, my heart. I trusted you. I know, she said, choking on her words, and I didn't deserve that trust. I know I don't. But I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted to love you. But I've been living with this guilt. And every time I saw you, every time I touched you, it was like a reminder of what I did. Her words crashed over me like waves, and I couldn't keep up. I couldn't hold on to anything anymore. My emotions were a tangle of confusion, anger, and, strangely, compassion. How long have you known? I asked, my voice low, barely a whisper. She closed her eyes, then opened them again, her gaze filled with shame. Since you were 17. I was there that night. I was the one in the car with my boyfriend. When you were hit, my heart stopped. The words hung in the air, thick with tension. I couldn't breathe. She continued, her voice barely audible. I was 17. We were drinking. We were driving too fast, and I begged him to stop. But he didn't. We hit you, and I remember hearing the sound of the crash, of you screaming. I didn't know if you were dead or alive. She paused, her hands shaking as she gripped the fabric of her dress. After the accident, my boyfriend told me to never speak of it. He told me to keep quiet, to pretend it never happened, and I did. I did because I was scared. But every day I lived with the guilt. I lived with the knowledge that I was there, that I was part of it, even though I wasn't the one driving. I felt like I was suffocating. The air around me grew heavier with every word she spoke, each one a crushing weight. The world that I had built in my mind, my life with her, was falling apart in front of me. I came to the support group to try to make peace with myself. I saw you, and I recognized you immediately. I wanted to tell you the truth so many times, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I was terrified that you'd hate me, that I'd lose you. I felt like my whole body was shaking now, but I couldn't move. I couldn't process anything, she continued, her voice cracking under the pressure. And tried to make up for it. Every act of love, every gesture, everything I did for you, it was because I wanted to redeem myself. I wanted to prove to myself, to you, that I could be a good person, but I was living a lie. I felt my chest tighten. redemption. That's what this had all been about for her. The way she had volunteered, the way she had given so much of herself, she had done it all to try to heal a wound she couldn't fix. But she had chosen to heal it by keeping the truth from me. And in doing so, she had shattered everything I believed in. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hurt her the way she had hurt me. But the anger was tangled with something else, something deeper. It wasn't just betrayal I felt. It was pain, her regret, her guilt. It was a suffocating realization that I was caught in the middle of a storm I hadn't even known was there. I don't know what to do anymore, I said, my voice shaking with every breath. Don't know who you are. I don't know who I am in all of this. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way. She reached out, but I stepped back. If you want to annul the marriage, I won't stop you, she said softly, her voice broken. But I will never stop loving you. I'll never be able to forget you, no matter what you decide. But I'll respect your choice. I swear I will. I could feel the walls closing in on me. Every part of me wanted to turn away from her, to walk away and never look back. But something inside me stopped me. The years of love we had shared, the warmth in her voice, the gentleness in her touch, couldn't just disappear, couldn't just be washed away by the truth. But I was also drowning in that truth. My heart was torn between two forces, one that demanded justice and another that still felt the remnants of love. I could feel the storm inside me, swirling and pushing me to make a decision that would change everything. The truth had taken away the clarity that I thought I had. I looked at her one last time, and in that moment I realized I had a choice. It's strange the way time works when everything you thought you knew starts to unravel. The days after the wedding, after the truth, were some of the longest I've ever lived. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think clearly. My mind kept circling, caught in the storm of everything that had happened. I kept replaying her words, her face, that moment, the moment I saw her for the first time in a way I could never unsee, seeing, but not understanding. I thought that once I could see, I would finally know. I thought my blindness was the thing holding me back. But, in the end, it wasn't my eyes that were the problem. It was the blindness I had in my heart, the parts of her I refused to see, the parts of me I didn't want to face. And now? Now I'm trying to understand what it really means to see, to truly see someone for who they are, for all their flaws, their pain, their darkness. Because love is about seeing someone's soul, not just their face. I spent so many years thinking that love was something you could just feel, but sometimes it's more complicated than that. We all wear masks. Even when we think we're being real, we hide the things that are too painful, too raw to show. And maybe that's part of what I never understood, that the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was wearing a mask too, one of guilt, one of regret. Can't say that I've figured everything out. I can't say that I've forgiven her, or myself. But one thing I know for sure is that she didn't take my heart and break it only to leave it shattered. She broke my heart, yes. But in doing so, she also gave it a reason to beat again. It's strange. She's still the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, and yet she's also someone I'm still trying to understand. She took my life in one way, but she gave it back to me in another. The truth is, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I can ever trust her again. But I do know this: love isn't perfect. It's messy, painful, beautiful, and flawed. We can't escape the scars we've earned, but we can learn from them. Maybe that's the only thing that really matters. In the end, I'm left with one haunting question that I can't stop asking myself. If someone gives you back your life, but they also took it from you in the first place, can you ever really forgive them? And I don't know if I have an answer to that yet. Maybe I never will. But I do know that I have to keep living. And somehow one day I'll find a way to move forward, whether that's with her or without her. For now, though, I'll keep searching for the answer.